I'm Kerry Shale.
And I'm Daniel Crespin.
And this is Bob Dylan.
Approximately.
Now your dancing child with his Chinese suit, he spoke to me. I took his flute. No, I wasn't very cute to him, was I? But I did it, though, because he lied, because he took you for a ride, and because time was on his side, and because I want you. I want you. I want you so bad. Honey, I want you. I want you.
You're looking at me funny, Dan.
Very intimate moments.
Yes,
here in the
a hell of a
Lipsync
song.
Studios.
Wow.
Yeah, this song has always made me happy, strangely, because it's quite a melancholic song in some ways, but I think it's the tinge of sadness and vulnerability that I enjoy about it, because you don't see it that often from Bob, I think, especially in these sort of 65, 66 years, these iconic, legendary years. And just the tune, for one, is the harmonica's brilliant, and it's peak Bob in terms of, you know, what people, if people are going to do a Bob impression, they'll do
very good. Yeah.
It's that he's at his peak of nasality, and
his voice is fabulous, though.
It's fantastic.
I love it. You know, I was talking to somebody last night who said, I hate Bob Dylan's voice. And I felt sorry for them, as I always do, particularly for something like this, because it's so expressive.
Yeah.
It's got all sorts of levels. There's all sorts of stuff happening.
I was on tour a few years ago with a lot of actors, sort of, what was I at the time, 23, 24. Some were a little bit older than me, but no one above 30. And we would play songs in the car to the next venue. And I remember playing this and people taking the mick in the middle.
Wow.
But I listen to every song. When I'm preparing for these podcasts, I look at the lyrics as I'm listening to the song. And this, I just kept playing the song on repeat and repeat. I will never get tired of this song. It brings me real joy. And I know it's not really a joyful song, but there's something about the fact that it's about falling in love, I think. Not being in love, but sort of, for me, anyway, this is subjective. It's about falling in love. You know, he's getting the guilty undertaker size, the lonesome organ grab. Everyone's going, oh, come on, man. But it doesn't matter, because I want you. And I know it's probably not right, but I want you. And I think there's something so innocent and beautiful and very un-Bob in some ways about that. Where it's a side of Bob you don't get so often.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about the music, because in my deep dive to this, I don't know how I came across this. It's from an Australian magazine called Rhythms. In 2022, they asked Greil Marcus, our favorite critic, about Like a Rolling Stone. But he could have been talking about I Want You. He was just talking about Dylan and music. But I'll just quote this, because I thought it was really, this wasn't something he wrote. It was an interview. He said, I found myself listening to that song over and over again. And I found ways to listen to it on headphones where I could tune out certain instruments and listen only to the piano or only to the guitar playing. I mean, I could cognitively do that and hear the song in its parts, and it became endless and bottomless. I never got tired of listening to it. I never have. It always carries with it a sense of event, of contingency. I love that, the way it's a really good use of that word.
Yeah.
It's not a finished product. It's not a text. It's not something that's been perfected, but it's something that's happening as you listen. And all through that song, you can hear that sense of contingency, that people are finding their way through the song in the dark. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going to happen when they get there. And that was about Like a Rolling Stone, but I think any of those classics, particularly from that time period, I think you could say the same thing about. And I did the same thing. I listened to this on repeat. It was absolutely, it was a joy.
Yeah. I don't know if because you have Spotify as well,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So you get a playlist at the end of every year of your top 100 songs.
Right.
I Want You is always on there. It's always on there. Talking of the music, I often go into the music nerdery towards the end, but as you brought it up, so I just think it's really clever, simple but clever musically. So the first 4 lines of each verse descend one note down each line. So you get a descending bass line from F down to B flat. And the effect that gives, along with the kind of chirpy keyboards, is you get this joyful harmonica and keyboard, but this kind of boom, 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 boom. So the bass line has got the melancholy in it. And as I've said before, he's not a particularly brilliant player of instruments, Bob Dylan. Sorry, Bob. Love you. But he's a fucking great musician in how he knows how to work music. And it's why I think it's what we've talked about Girl from the North Country, the musical, many times. It's why I think they chose I Want You to be a very sad, melancholic love song, because it does work with just the descending bass line on a piano. But it's one of my least favourite moments of Girl from the North Country. The fact that
I don't really remember where it comes or how they
quite near the
it.
start, but it's like it's a the broken love story between the main character's son,
yes.
and it's like these very ordinary working people from Middle America saying, "The guilty undertaker sighs, the lonesome organ." Like, it's so stupid. It doesn't work. Yeah. And then she starts singing along as well, and then they're singing together, you know, "Will I return to the Queen of Spades? She taught with her chair." It's like, how in any fucking planet does this work? You know what I mean?
No, but it's interesting because I think people, I remember when the reviews came out, a lot of reviews commented on that being a great moment. But I think what they were responding to was the fact that it's a great song.
Yeah.
And even the ridiculous staging of it couldn't destroy that. But, you know, for me, I actually hadn't thought that much about the song, even though I've played it a lot over the years. Like, it's just something that it's so beautiful that I would just let it sort of drift over me.
Yeah.
But I thought about it for the podcast, and to me it seems much more to be about lust than love.
Okay.
You know, it always has hit me from below. I think that's to me that's what I get from it. That he's trying to kind of entertain a girl he really fancies, and he's coming up with all this cool imagery, but underneath it, he's thinking, "I want you, I want you." And then it reminded me of the Dylan and Joan Baez thing in A Complete Unknown. That I loved the way that they had the lead up to them sleeping together. You never see him make a play for her at all. He doesn't flirt with her, nothing. They just trade a couple of looks, and then suddenly they're on top of each other at the top of the stairs outside the folk club, and they want each other so bad, and clearly they were lusting after each other.
It's a good point though, but I think falling in love, that falling in love where you're essentially it's a legal high, you know, your brain's all these chemicals, and I do think it's something that we don't talk about that often because it's not the romantic part of falling in love. But I remember, you know, falling in love for the first time and it being the summer when I went to drama school, and she was back in America, and I missed her physically more than anything. It was like you want to be near that person. So I do think that's part of falling in love, the lust phase. It's just that physical need for them in a way. That I think that this song,
I think it's about it's you know, who's to say what it's about, but it's probably about both.
It's also so I've written, it has a chorus ! Which is not always the case for Dylan, a simple one, but as I said, it's one of the moments where he gives up his powers of expression that he and thought so sublime, and just says, "I give up. I want you so fucking bad, honey, I want you." And it was released as a single before the album came out, so, and you know, he's not known as a singles guy. But it reached the top 20 in both the US and the UK, and I think that speaks to, even with lyrics like, you know, the real poetic thing, the many characters, it's still such a catchy song that it was able to be played on the radio and you know, get
and
that
it's,
following.
Again, to me, I remember hearing it on the radio, and I did like it, but again, I was quite shocked because just the "I Want You" seems to me when I was, I don't know, 13, 14, it was about sex to me. And I was always, around that time as well, I was aware that the fact that he used the word lover in a lot of his songs. I want to be your lover, baby. I want to be your man. And I thought, I didn't know about blues or anything like that. I just thought, this word lover seems rather sexual. It's rather drippy. It's a sort of, I always loved when he uses the word lover in his songs, which he does a lot. I think it speaks to both lust and love, and I think he's really good. I don't know anybody else. I don't think the Beatles did use lover, but it sounded, I want to be your lover, baby. I want to be your man.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of like,
it sounded
let's
like
hold hands
teeny
and go to
boppers.
the pictures.
Exactly.
Get a gal on my arm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual, the words such as they are, especially say the opening, the guilty undertaker, the lonesome organ grinder, the silver saxophonist. I mean, they're very beautiful. I don't quite understand, again, the meaning, but I came across this morning just on my Instagram feed, my morning trawl. What it gave me this morning was Joni Mitchell being interviewed, and they said, and I don't subscribe to a Joni Mitchell sort of feed, but they were interviewing her, and they said, who was your biggest influence as a songwriter? And I'd never seen this before. It's probably really famous. It was probably, by the look of her, it was probably the 80s. She had her kind of 80s kit on. Mm-hmm. And this is a quote. My biggest influence as a songwriter was probably Bob Dylan.
Wow.
Yeah. Dylan taught us that you could take the private poetic scribblings from your notebook and turn them into a song. And I thought that I really had to think about that.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, when we cover, I think in our next episode, we're going to be covering one of Bob Dylan's, I think, possibly worst songs, which I don't think the lyrics are very good. And I know he said that he wrote it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it really was his private poetic scribblings. I mean, I think in this case, I think he started out with his private poetic scribblings and refined them to be poetry, to be kind of perfection. But I still don't, that's what I love about, like, I don't understand why the lonesome organ grinder is crying. Although, I've just had a thought that, the organ grinder is sort of, I think there's some sort of phrase about, stop grinding your organ or something like that, which is just like, blah, blah, blah. Like you just, an organ grinder never stops, right? He keeps turning his. Yeah. Did they have organ grinders in the UK?
I have no idea.
There used to be guys. Do you know?
I know
what an organ grinder is.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a guy who'd stand on a street corner with this mechanical organ thing, and often would have a monkey. He would often have a monkey sort of jumping around on his shoulders, and. But it's a hell of an image, the lonesome organ grinder cries. He's making this music, and he's weeping. Yeah,
it's very, we were talking about this on the walk here, Kerouac. It's very, Dylan was very influenced by Kerouac, and I love Kerouac's poetry in some ways just as much as his prose. But it's there's like stuff like... praise be man, he is surviving in milk and living in lilies. Like, what does that mean?
Wow.
But it's imagery that evokes something. And I similarly, I don't know what the silver saxophones say, I should refuse you, the guilty undertaker. But he's great around this time at Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde of creating these you look at Desolation Row, the amount of why and the Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot, and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and all that. So there's
Shakespeare. He's in the alley.
He's in the alley. So it's just over 3 minutes, and it has. I tried to count. I think 11 characters if you include the person he's addressing. Plus, some of these are all multiple. So all their daughters, all my fathers. That's hard to do as a writer and not make a song feel bloated and like you're trying to cram everything in, but Dylan doesn't because he's Dylan, and this is where the term wordsmith, I think, comes from. He really knows how to make words economical, even when they're seemingly not economical, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines in the first verse, and you've already got guilty undertaker's rights, lonesome organ grinder, silver saxophones, cracked bells, washed out horns. It's hard to do that.
Yeah,
I think you can overlook that sometimes because it's like,
he makes it look easy.
He's just a great songwriter,
yeah,
but it's really fucking hard to do.
Yeah.
I love that thing about Joni Mitchell because I it's always been a complicated relationship between them.
I was
by the
surprised
sound of
that
it.
she was so not so much generous. She was just being honest. Like the question obviously hadn't been vetted. She was asked this question and she thought about it and she she didn't. It was interesting because she didn't look like she was admitting it. She wasn't being snarky about it.
No,
she was just saying he kicked the door open, as Bruce Springsteen said.
Well, it's because later on there's an interview when she's much older where she's like, I like some of Bob's songs.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
He stole his voice from old hillbillies and all that stuff, and I'm like, no, come on, Joni. But for me, as someone who has written songs since I was a teenager, for me, someone who was born 53 years after Bob Dylan was born, I mean this absolutely respectfully, he taught me that if you've got something to say and you can strum a little bit on a guitar, you can be a really good songwriter if you have something to say. And I'm not a really good songwriter, but he's not the best musician. The songs aren't overtly complicated, yet he's got so much to say.
But he surrounded himself with brilliant musicians,
and always has.
Yeah, I mean the music on this song, is as we can agree with Greil Marcus.
Yeah,
if you just listening to the organ, makes me smile.
Yeah,
it's just great. And listening to the bass, at the end of, I don't understand any of the musical terms you've been using. I hope there are people out there who do. But
sorry,
I like it when the bass, at the end of when it hits the bottom, it sort of goes. It just lingers there. Just sort of rumbles.
Yeah,
and that makes me smile as well.
Yeah. Well, this is the great thing about music. You don't have to know any of it really, but it makes you feel a certain way, even if you don't know what it is they're doing.
Exactly. Like this, when this song comes up, it's not like, some of the, say, born again Christian stuff where I literally would, if it actually came up on a shuffle, I would run across the room and press the fast forward. Whereas with this, I always go, that's nice.
Yeah. There's much speculation that, I was looking this up, that the dancing child with his Chinese suit is Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones, who apparently wore Chinese shirts everywhere. Dylan and him hung out together.
And he played the flute.
And Time Was on His Side was one of the Rolling Stones' first major US hits. So,
but
I'd add that bit of trivia in there.
Yeah, I know. I read about that as well, and I thought it was one of those times where I really thought, sometimes critics can really fuck you up because it's hard to listen to that song. I'd heard about the Brian Jones thing years ago, and when there's an article about the song, they often showed Brian Jones and Anita Pallenberg, his girlfriend, who some people say the song is about.
Yeah,
and that doesn't ruin it for me, but I don't want to allow that in there. I think it may be true, but it takes away from the sort of poetry of the song.
Well, yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's one of the reasons that Dylan particularly will never say what his songs are about, really, or if he does, he kind of clearly leads you down a path that's just wacky, because it. We'll cover it at some point because I mention it all the fucking time, but most of the time I don't want to know who most of the time's about or what it is particularly to Bob, because that song puts me in exactly the place I was in when I first heard it and who it's about to me. And that's why the song means so much to me. And that, this is why music's so powerful, because it can highlight little periods of your life and it takes you back to exactly that. And if it's about this particularly, it's like, it kind of takes away from it slightly.
Yeah, but people keep picking, and I'm, guilty of that as well. I go, this is about whatever, Sarah, this is about Carolyn Dennis or whoever.
Yeah.
But it's not good. It's not healthy. It's much better to leave it be. I've got a thing here I just wanted to share with you, which I found in Robert Shelton's book, No Direction Home. And it's about it's Dylan on love and sex. And it was recorded when he was on tour with Dylan, and I discovered that it was, well, it's dated. It says mid-March 1966. Well, he recorded I Want You. It was the last thing he recorded for Blonde on Blonde. He recorded I Want You like a week before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is more or less
fresh,
contemporaneous. And Dylan he really trusted Robert Shelton, and he really opened up to him. If you know, there's some really naked stuff and some stuff that is just pure babble. Like it just doesn't make any sense at all. But anyway, I picked this out because it was about love and sex, which is what we've been discussing. And I will read it to you. I will refrain from doing a Dylan voice just so we can listen to the words. So he says, they're on an airplane, and he's been rambling on for a couple of pages. But then he says, love and sex are things that really hang everybody up. When things aren't going right and you're really nobody, if you don't get laid in one way or another, you get mean, You get cruel. Now, why in the world sex should force this is beyond me. I truthfully can tell you that male and female are not here to have sex, That's not the purpose. I don't believe that that's God's will. That females have been created so that they can be the counterpart of man's urge. There are too many other things that people just won't let themselves be involved in. Sex and love have nothing to do with female and male. It's just whatever two souls happen to be. It could be male and female, and it might not be male and female. It might be female and female, or it might be male and male. You can try to pretend that it doesn't happen, and you can make fun of it and be snide, but that's not really the rightful thing.
Woke Bob, eh?
Yes, it's weird, isn't it? Because it's kind of biblical in a way when he says that's not really the rightful thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of biblical in the opposite direction. It is, clearly saying what he's clearly saying. But there's other stuff that I think is weird about the females haven't been created so that they can be the counterpart of man's urge. But I also think he is saying that female, in his songs are saying females were created to be the counterpart of man's urge. I think in a way he's talking to himself.
Yeah. I think also he's not mentioning anything about women's urge. Like it's kind of like,
of course,
in terms of sex as well. So, yeah. I just wanted to say that I didn't get the exact interview, but I just thought this was an interesting small little ditty. He said it's not just pretty words to a tune or putting tunes to words. It's the words and the music together. I can hear the sound of what I want to say. I thought that last bit was very interesting. I can hear the sound of what I want to say. So that's interesting for someone who's so poetic lyrically. Because, he said it so many times, the music is just as important as the words are just as important as the music. But it's like that he almost hears in his head. So songwriters are always asked which comes first, the lyrics or the music. I think it probably varies for Bob, but that thing of even if he's writing lyrics, he's kind of hearing how it's going to be in his head. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think he's often not able to put them together, and that's when I think he rejects them. Sometimes they fit perfectly, like in I Want You. They just fit.
Yeah, I did. The final thing I've got to say is that it also has a bridge, man. It has a bridge, which is very rare for Dylan's songs. So it's like, well, how all my fathers, they've gone down. It changes.
Yeah,
it's a middle 8 bit.
Yeah.
Which he does kind of seamlessly.
I'm surprised. I was looking, I thought, oh, it's got a bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah. But what do you make of? I mean, let's see. What do we make of how all my fathers, they've gone down, true love, they've been without it, but all their daughters put me down because I don't think about it.
I have absolutely no idea, I have to say. And I think that, again, it's one of the things I love about this song is the music is almost more important than the lyrics for me with this song, which is rare for Bob songs for me.
Yeah, because the end of "Because I Don't Think About It," I return to the
Yeah.
Queen of Spades. And it's sort of what a bridge, I guess, in a way, is there for, to lead you into getting deeper into the regular lyrics.
Yeah.
By the way, I think the Queen of Spades, I see it as a pub out in the country, out in the Cotswolds.
The Queen of Spades.
You know, hey, he talks to his chief. Hey, you didn't make up my bed. You know? I put the sign on the door. Possibly not.
Put the sign on the window.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Bobcats. If you enjoy Bob Dylan approximately and would like access to longer bonus episodes,
Early access to all episodes,
plus a whole range of exclusive membership benefits,
consider becoming a Bobsessive over at our Patreon page.
you'll get all that for just £5 a month.
Oh, and if you're going to sign up, please do so via a web browser rather than the Patreon app.
Or Apple take 30% of our Patreon fee.
Because money doesn't talk, it swears. We could see Ruby in the window as we came rolling up in a trail of dust. She said, "Henry's not here, he took off, but y'all can come in and stay a while." Well, she told us times were tough, but we never knew how bad off she was. You know, she would change the subject every time money came up. You know, her eyes were filled with so much sadness. She was so disillusioned with everything. She said, "Even the swap meets around here are getting pretty corrupt."
I love Roisin.
Who writes stuff like
that? I know.
Oh, God.
It's genius and absurd at the same time, this song, which is what I love about it.
When I came back to look at it recently, I realized he rhymes up with corrupt. I mean, who does that?
We should also mention that this is co-written with Sam Shepard,
yes,
as well,
absolutely.
Which I do think has an effect, because listening to you read that, it's kind of almost like that could be lines in a play.
Yeah,
easily.
exactly. I mean, Sam Shepard this was written in 1986 originally with Sam Shepard. And Sam Shepard was well known as a playwright for his monologues. Like he's written monologues, and he's written monologues within plays. In fact, I did a production of True West where I learned a lot about Sam Shepard.
Was True West out by this stage? I don't know when True West came out as a play.
Oh, that's a very good question.
Definitely 80s, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very definitely. I couldn't say,
No.
but I had this. I played, of course, the writer character, not the wild man in the desert character. But I became the writer character who becomes the wild man in the desert, because it's two sides of the same person. And he gets very drunk, and at the beginning, I think, of the second act, he has a long drunken monologue, and it's not unlike this. So yeah, I think Sam Shepard really was responsible for a lot of the storytelling, because I think, you know, it's hard to keep Dylan sort of on track, and indeed the storytelling goes off track. But that little bit that I just read was like a little monologue in a play.
Yeah.
By the way, it was recorded originally. Here's a few New Danville Girl facts.
Because we should probably say that we're doing New Danville Girl, which was never released on an album, but
That's
it
right.
became Brownsville Girl on
Exactly.
1986.
And we'll talk about Brownsville Girl as well. But the reason I chose New Danville Girl was because I prefer it to Brownsville Girl. I just enjoy listening to it more. So anyway, just a few facts. Recorded in December 1984 during the Empire Burlesque sessions. But it really didn't sound anything like the Empire Burlesque tracks. And luckily, the bit that was eventually released, the track that was eventually released in Springtime in New York in 2021, was not treated to that, what I think, you know, horrible echo stuff that you know, the poor tracks on Empire Burlesque had to endure. And also, I heard it years ago because my friend Lucas Hare introduced me to it. He gave me a bootleg he was a big bootleg guy, and he gave me a bootleg of it ages ago. And so I thought, wow, this is, I think, tons better than Brownsville Girl. But we'll go back to it. Brownsville Girl, which was originally released in 86.
On possibly, it's up there with either that or Down in the Groove as the worst Dylan album for me. Those two. So it's funny that this amazing song comes in the middle slap bang in the middle of one of the worst albums Dylan ever released.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I mean, I love Brownsville Girl is a good song.
It's amazing.
I just hate the production on that.
And Knocked Out Loaded, I mean, it makes Under the Red Sky look like Blood on the Tracks.
Yes, exactly. But I think Down in the Groove is even worse, I'd have to say. That,
yeah, Ugliest Girl in the World up there for one of the worst tracks.
Oh, God. Yeah, but the thing that to me, there is a lot of debate about this, and I know that a lot of people come down on the Brownsville Girl side. Like I looked up Michael Gray's. I've got the Michael Gray Bob Dylan Encyclopedia, which I look up from time to time, and I found that he does 5 pages on Brownsville Girl, which is a huge amount. I mean, I think it's probably more than. It's certainly more than I Want You gets. I Want You. I don't think he does anything on.
Wow.
So he does 5 pages on Brownsville Girl and why it's superior to New Danville Girl. But to me, New Danville Girl, I just enjoy listening to it because it's a nice clean sound. It's it hasn't been messed with, and there's also weird beats and weird near fluffs and some uncertain lingering on a word or two where you think in his head he's can't quite remember the next word, and I really love that. I think it's very much more human.
I haven't decided yet which is my I can't quite decide because I totally agree. The production is far better on New Danville Girl. They take the echo out. The backing singers aren't. There's a little bit of backing singers, but not.
There's
too
one
much.
backing singer.
Yeah, one backing singer. The only things I will say for Brownsville Girl that I would say are superior, the second half lyrically is very different.
Yeah.
And I think very profound in some ways on Brownsville Girl. I'll get to that later. But also, it's much more his vocal delivery, despite the echo they've put on it in Brownsville Girl. He's singing more, and it's kind of almost an octave higher at certain points.
Yeah.
Which I really love hearing that from Dylan. It's a really passionate, heartfelt thing in Brownsville Girl, whereas it's more not a talking blues, but a kind of talking style more on New Danville Girl.
Yeah, and I think I would, without the awful echo and the synthesizers. God, I hate synthesizers. And the back.
It's the 80s, man.
Yeah, but he was Bob Dylan. Bob, you shouldn't have gone there.
I know.
As far as I'm concerned. And there's tacky sax solos and. Also, he cut the window reference, which I opened with.
We didn't get a Carrie window.
She's out there hanging laundry, which I think is very good, possibly superior. But I do love a good window reference, as we know. But I do think his vocals are great on Brownsville Girl. But I do love the reciting quality. I like that monologue.
Yeah.
It's more like an opera on Brownsville Girl.
Yes.
I can appreciate that. Like, it's not that I hate it. Like, I won't rush across the room and turn it off. But I kind of appreciate the New Danville Girl is more like a movie, actually. It's more like a Harry Dean Stanton movie. It's more like Paris, Texas.
Literally, I was going to say later, it's this song, it's a perfect 80s movie and a song. There was something about the 80s where they're obsessed with a road movie. Not that Paris, Texas is just a road movie.
Yeah.
But I've written down Paris, Texas, Trains, Planes and Automobiles, Midnight Run, Something Wild, Stand By Me, all these songs where they're traveling across America. There's something about this song that feels like that, and it's interesting that it came in the 80s where that was an obsession.
And Sam Shepard wrote Paris, Texas.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to Ruby and the Swap Meets.
Ruby.
I love Ruby.
This
I'm kind of in love with Ruby.
This sort of tragic character that just appears, and
and so they don't call them swap meets in the UK, right? But
no, what is a swap meet?
Well,
I should know that.
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily because they don't have them in the UK. But they're basically flea markets or car boot sales.
Yeah,
but they're more than that because you can go to flea markets, say, and think, maybe I can find a kitsch lamp, that reminds me of my childhood or something. But in the States, they're more associated with working class, sort of low cost ways of furnishing your house. They often take place in rural settings. They're not glamorous. They're not kitsch. They're not urban. And so, to say that So the swap meet, the idea of the swap meet kind of cuts through, like, the narrator's been talking about the road trip and the, all this operatic sort of highfalutin sort of stuff about, love and the rain and the car breaks down. And but when he meets Ruby, there's, and she has this, she's this sad woman who's been clearly abandoned, like Henry's not here, he took off. That's like, he's gone. Because I think it's slightly different in Brownsville Girl.
I'll find it in a minute. You
okay, but I'll carry on. So the narrator's been off on this, mythic journey, and he's talking about movies and cars. We'll get onto the movie thing, the whole movie thing.
Oh yes, sorry. It is. Is it? Yeah. So she said, Henry ain't here, but you can come on in. He'll be back in a little while.
Yeah,
in Brownsville Girl.
So in New Danville Girl, okay. He's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
And she's had to go to the swap meets, to make ends meet. And, she's got terrible money problems. She doesn't want to talk about money. So the swap meets become even more important. Like if she can sell stuff at the swap meets, she can, keep a roof over her head. And I think, what she's trying to tell him with the swap meets around here are getting pretty corrupt is this is what life is. Yeah. This is what my life is. It's not a romantic movie about gunfighters. It's not a movie at all. It's reality. And when she says corrupt, like it's an odd choice of words. Thank you, Bob, as always. Corruption. What is, corruption? One way of looking at corruption is that it's something getting old, like the body gets corrupted. It's falling apart. It's dying. It's like you and me, baby, the guy who's come, I've just invited in to have a cup of coffee. Yeah. Wake up, man. Everything's corrupt.
And it's interesting that the next verse is, you say, this is what she's saying, this is what life is, this is reality for me. And then she says, how far you all going? We're going all the way till the wheels fall off, till they burn and the paint peels off the car.
So to the watermarks and dies!
So it completely contrasts with Oh, I know,
and I love that the fact, and I think this really benefits from the Sam Shepard, Bob Dylan sort of dichotomy, because it's not just Ruby saying this to Bob Dylan. In the way that I think possibly Sam Shepard has arranged it, it's Bob Dylan saying this to Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And Bob Dylan saying it to us. He steps outside of himself, courtesy of, I think, his co-writer.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. I love how he's telling the story to... You kind of can't quite figure out because he's telling the story to someone who was there. It's like, do you remember that time we were?
Yeah.
But then he goes, well, I'm now driving with this other woman and she reminds me of you. And then it's in the present tense. He sort of does it seamlessly and beautifully as Dylan does. It's kind of that... It's a similar thing to me as Tangled Up in Blue. It's as he said, it's kind of like I wanted to almost create a painting where there's different things happening all at one time, but he does it in this song with what tense he's using. And it should be confusing, but it's kind of not.
Yeah, and also the person, like I think, if I remember correctly, I compared the two of them and he says we were driving, I think, in Brownsville Girl, but I think in New Danville Girl, he says I was driving. The girl arrives seemingly out of nowhere, and then they split up under the stars.
Yeah.
But he continues to play with I, we.
Yeah.
The other thing he plays with a lot more than he normally does. Like usually there's one or maybe two weird pronunciations in songs where it's like he's speaking a foreign language, but he does it all in this song. He does it all in one verse. I'll read it because it's funny how people just want to believe what's convenient. And then he says, nothing happens on purpose. It's an accident if it happens at all. And everything that's happening to us seems like it's happening without our consent. But we're busy talking back and forth to our shadows on an old stone wall. But I think it's I don't understand it, why it's happening all within those few lines.
I guess it's probably to do with rhythm, because it's the syllables he's stressing. What it achieves, I don't know. Only Bob will know.
But I love it. I mean, it's so, like, nobody says convenient,
yeah.
And he's always doing that stuff in his songs, but it's like a little car crash of weird pronunciations, which I love. I mean, it's great.
Can I tell you and it's so simple, one of the things I love about New Danville Girl over Brownsville Girl is the way it starts. So
I agree. Yeah, go on.
I wish I could remember that movie a little better, is New Danville Girl. So I love any art that starts like that. Starts in the middle of something, because as a viewer or a listener, you have to fill in the blanks. Whereas Brownsville Girl starts, well, there was this movie I seen one time, which is nowhere near as interesting as, well, I wish I could remember that movie.
No, it's clearly inferior, I have to say. But you know how we talked about, what was the song we talked about that, Mississippi, putting on
another
coat
one with Rosie
armor
as well.
Yes,
I was thinking
exactly.
that while we were talking.
Yeah,
sorry, coat of armor.
No, but we talked about Mississippi, like he puts on a coat of armor for the actual official version that went out on Love and Theft. And I feel like with Brownsville Girl, he's put on the armor of the synthesizers and the screaming background vocalists. You know, talented. But I hate, if it's the thing I really hate about it, that operatic, the way he makes them into characters, whereas it's so much better with, to me, a single vocalist.
Yeah.
But do you want to talk about the Gunfighter, or at least the cowboy movie, and Gregory Peck?
Go on. Yeah,
okay. Well, so New Danville Girl, part of it is when he brings Gregory Peck into it, it's about Gregory Peck, the iconic film star and star of the movie The Gunfighter, which he clearly is referencing. So, and it's about being known for what you are instead of who you are. So I think Bob Dylan is clearly doing that, because the main character in The Gunfighter, if you haven't seen it, and I did watch it a couple of years ago, and it's a great film. I'm not a huge Western film fan at all, but it's a great film about fame. And so Jimmy Ringo is the fastest gun in the West, or at least this part of the West. And he can't walk into a bar without being challenged by a cocky young gunfighter. And in the same way, Bob Dylan could no longer walk into a room. And everyone was always talking about who's going to be the new Dylan. And so this kid challenges him in a bar while he's drinking, a glass of whiskey, and he keeps calling him Mr. I can't remember. It's something like Mr. Fluffleface or something. He keeps calling him this really stupid name. Hey, Mr. Fluffleface. It's not that, but it's equally stupid and insulting. And he's got his hand poised above his gun, and it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking, because he keeps getting he's about 8 or 9 feet away, standing there, just daring Jimmy Ringo to draw. Jimmy Ringo, rather. I keep wanting to call him Johnny. And finally, he pulls his gun. In a flash, Jimmy Ringo, who has been holding in his right hand this glass of whiskey, has got his gun in his hand, like they cut away. Okay. And the guy is, boom, he's dead on the floor. And so it goes on that Ringo escapes that, and his three rather gormless brothers are of the kid who was shot, try to track him down, and that becomes the sort of what's happening in the film. But also, Jimmy Ringo is going back to the old town where he left his wife and kid. It's never explained why he left his wife and kid, and his old mate, who I think used to be kind of like a bank robber or something with him, is now the sheriff in the town. And in the same way that in New Danville Girl, this is all kind of part of it, because I think in the New Danville Girl, the old mate is a sheriff, but in Brownsville Girl, he becomes a marshal for some reason.
Yes, yeah. There's one of my favourite lines, actually, as the dying gunfighter lay in the sun and gasped for his last breath. I love this bit. Turn him loose, let him go, let him say he outdrew me fair and square. I want him to feel what it's like to every moment face his death. Yeah. Oh, that's oofed.
It's fabulous, but it is also what happens in the movie.
I'll have to watch it.
It's amazing. This kid, another kid who has challenged him, comes out, and after they've arrested the three brothers, spoiler alert, and Gregory Peck is making his way out of town, and this kid shoots him in the back. Wow. He's shot in the back by a hungry kid trying to make a name for himself. And it's sort of like, let him know what it's like to be the new Bob Dylan. Yeah. Let him know what it's like also to face because actually being Bob Dylan is to every moment face your death. It's being, alive and in pain all the time in some ways. And he literally says about the movie, it's starring Gregory Peck. And he was in it.
He was in it, by the way. Sorry, that's another Kerry.
It's about Gregory Peck, and he was.
We need a name for these things because I just write in my notes a Kerry, but it's not. We need a name for it. An obvious Bob. But
to be fair, I have to credit that to Luke because I think Luke was the first person, my old podcast partner, who said "basement down the stairs." Pointed that out to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, you and I are finding this all the time. It's starring Gregory Peck,
and he was in it.
And everything he did in it reminded me of me. That's so. What should we call that? I don't know. A Bob.
A Lukey break,
or a basement down the stairs. No, we'll come up with something.
We'll find something
Anyway. But he's trying to in that. I think the reason he's doing that is one of the things he's doing in this song is he's trying to re-enter his own life, but it's kind of a myth, even to him, even to Bob Dylan.
Well, he says that line about I can't remember what character I was trying to play. Something that's not.
I
the
knew
exact
I was
thing.
in the movie, but I didn't know what character.
Yeah,
I was trying to play, and he's now.
Which is very 80s Dylan because he didn't know who the fuck he was or what his place was.
Yes, he said he couldn't sing his old songs.
Yeah,
and his life is now a movie starring someone else, and he'll show up and see it. He'll even stand in line in the rain to see this movie by, starring Gregory Peck, because he was in it. And Gregory Peck is kind of like him, and he's Gregory Peck. And then there was that moment, I don't know if you've ever seen it, where Gregory Peck makes this speech when he gets this award.
Yeah, the Kennedy Center.
Yeah. And Bob Dylan's in the audience, and he dedicates it to Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
It's
Bob looks so awkward as well.
Yes.
I was watching that the other day, actually, ready for this, and I was like, he is an awkward little guy, isn't he? You're right. He sort of shuffles on his seat.
He can't stop moving.
Yeah.
And when it reminds me of the time when he got the medal. Is it the Medal of Honor from Obama?
Yeah.
And he looks like he's like 8 years old, and he's this kid in front of the assembly, and just just moving back and forth.
I mean, imagine Bob quoting you favorably in a song. I mean, that must be a pretty.
I know,
pretty
even
big
if
honor.
you're a movie star, even if you're Gregory.
Absolutely. There's just a couple of lines. I just think it's so unique. I've never heard a song like it before or since. It's so unique, but there's just a few lines that I want to quote just because I love them. Let me just find it. If there's an original thought out there, I could use it right now. I mean, I know it's as a character, but quite a moment of humility from the greatest living songwriter, arguably.
Yeah.
I love that line. And I think, actually, this is where I think the second half of the song lyrically is more profound in the Brownsville Girl version. Stuff like, there's just life lessons. Strange how people suffer together are stronger than people who are most content.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Great.
There's just some fantastic lines in the second half. Hang on to me, baby, and let's hope that the roof stays on.
Yeah. And I think this is in both of them, isn't it? This is one of my favorite lines, which I've marked out. Well, they were, I think it's hilarious. Well, they were looking for somebody with a pompadour.
Yeah.
I was crossing the street when they opened fire. So he's basically saying, I had a pompadour.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, have this pompadour. And I didn't know whether to duck or to run, so I ran.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's a great line. It shouldn't be, because you would just say, I didn't know whether to duck or run. We go, so I ran.
And then sounded to me like I was being chased by the Midnight Choir, which rhymes with open fire. But Midnight Choir, I don't quite know what a Midnight Choir is. It sounds to me like death. Whatever it is, it's great. This is one of his great songs, I think.
Yeah, I truly think so.
I think it's an.
Yeah, I also the backing singers do annoy me in Brownsville Girl, but there's a really we talk about Bob kind of not minding mistakes and kind of keeping them in songs, which most musicians hate. But there's a really obvious one in this where I think it's the second chorus of Brownsville Girl. He sings "With Your Brownsville Curl," and they sing "Show Me All Around the World" at the same time, and he just keeps it in.
Yeah,
They just keep that in. He's only ever played it live once in 1986 with Tom Petty, but it's such an underwhelming version because he just sings the chorus for 4 minutes, and it's so disappointing.
Yeah, I listened to that as well. Yeah, and he's just kind of strumming.
Yeah,
it's like he I don't think he planned to do it. He just. Yeah. Speaking of Sam Shepard, and we've given him a lot of credit, but this is I found a thing from the Rolling Thunder logbook, the book that he wrote about the Rolling Thunder tour, that Sam Shepard wrote. And this is it. One thing that gets me about Dylan's songs is how they conjure up images, whole scenes that are being played out in full color as you listen. He's an instant filmmaker. Probably not the same scenes occur in the same way to everyone listening to the same song, but I'd like to know if anyone sees the same small rainy green park and the same bench as I do from A Simple Twist of Fate, or the same beach in Sarah, or the same bar in Hurricane, or the same window in It Ain't Me, Babe.
That's a great point about art in general, in terms of, I always think about that of novels and things. I must see the landscape of Grapes of Wrath far different to anyone else reading it, and that's what, in a way, what's so unique about novels as a form. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a little nod to the source, not really source material, but he gives his first nod in a little while to Woody Guthrie. Guthrie had a song called Danville Girl, and one of the lines is, "Got stuck on a Danville girl, she had that Danville curl." So there's that. And the final thing I have to say about it is that I would recommend anyone to listen to this while driving. It's my favourite being on the motorway driving to this song. I'm rarely happier than when I'm doing that.
That was Bob Dylan Approximately with Kerry Shale
and Daniel Crespin. Produced by Robin Guise.
And recorded at Lipsync Post, Soho, London.
For longer bonus episodes, join our Patreon feed.
And if you have a Bobsessive friend, please spread the word.
It ain't quite the end.
We'll just bid farewell till we meet again.